All right, so we're going to jump right into this one. Pretty much this is what happens when just screwing around and you stumble on something. So what you're seeing here, you might think is just a regular clip, but for those with eagle eyes and a good memory, what you are actually seeing is quite interesting and the purpose of today's video. So let's watch this again, this time with a parry indicator in the top right corner. If you haven't realized yet, this parry sequence should not be possible. And if you're standing on the ground, it isn't. This is the Wand Parry animation cancel. Is it a new feature or a bug? Let's find out. So what happened? Let's go to a more controlled environment and look at what's going on. In our first example, we're going to reproduce Kelkin's roundhouse kick combos. The same kick combos that we saw at the start of the video. When grounded, you can parry the first hit, but due to recovery animation frames, you cannot parry the following roundhouse kick attack. Let's look at the same situation, but this time in the air. We would expect the same result. The initial parry lands, and then we miss the second parry. But here, we get 2 hits. Why is this? Well, let's slow this down to 20 frames a second to get a better look. Once again, starting with our grounded example, what I want you to pay attention to is the recovery animation or the reset after a parry counter attack. Now let's examine what is going on when we're in the air. Once again, we want to pay attention to our recovery animation. Except as you can see in this situation, there is no recovery animation. Let's freeze frame. As we can see, the second parry initiates during the start of the recovery animation, essentially canceling it into the next Wand Parry animation. Here's the issue. While this is repeatable, this is not consistent. The next set of clips is a montage of reproducing the same situation against Kelkin on the ground and the air during both its normal and rage phases. Now, if this were consistent, this would be a very effective tool as it would lead to more damage in comparison to, say, a Wand Parry counter into a step attack counter. But it is not worth it because of its inconsistencies. But it is consistent in how the cancel triggers. As you may have noticed in those clips, the cancel works a little different when Kelkin is in its blue form versus its red form or its rage mode. So this leads me to believe that this is in fact a bug. There are some other buggy frame canceling attacks in the game, specifically Partisan's new photon art, Triumphant Shift, which is difficult but repeatable and completely changes the nature of the photon art. For whatever reason, Kelkin's attack animations or even hit detection might have strange interactions with the Wand Parry hit detection, allowing for this animation cancel to occur. The difference between ground and air might be a slight nuance to trigger the cancel, in addition to proximity, because as we saw, even when I'm in the air, the animation cancel isn't guaranteed. What else could be going on is that there's some spaghetti coding going on with how the game handles air attack animations and ground attack animation. I look at rod counter or rod guard because if you've noticed, whether you're on the ground or in the air, when you attack with rod, you are essentially in a hover state. So technically you're always in the air based on the animation. And as we also know, rod guard can consistently parry attacks. So if we were to look at Kelkin's roundhouse attacks, rod can parry them in sequence without much issue. So I think to myself, did some wires get crossed recently and Wand is exhibiting some of these mechanics when in the air? Of course, I question if this is something new or if this is something that's always been there and I've just never noticed. Now, I feel like that's hard given my experience with Wand Parry. I mean, for those who follow my channel, that's kind of my thing. So for something like this to have eluded me for an entire year until this past update, I feel like something's going on with Wednesday's update, and not something I just completely missed for the past year, but you never know. I do miss things. Now, if I put my conspiracy theory hat on, maybe Sega is making changes to Wand Parry and potentially other Techter related things. And something slipped into the main build, of course something that was incomplete. But as it stands, Kelkun seems to be the only enemy to trigger this animation cancel state. I tried against other enemies with sequential attacks with similar timing and no luck. Whether it was on the ground or in the air, I would miss that second sequential parry. Essentially, everything is going as normal. Kelkun is the only thing where this bug seems to be able to be triggered. So while this would be cool if Wand Parry could counter consecutively, right now this is a bug. Will it be fixed? Probably not, but I do hope Sega, if you're listening, make this a thing for both in the air and the ground. One of the things, or one of the weaknesses of Wand Parry is that you can't parry consecutive attacks, at least attacks that come within a short time window. That's a damage decrease, and it requires Techter, specifically Wand, to do things that are fine, but definitely not optimal. And when we look at Rod, I don't see why it can't get some of that same mechanical love. And for everyone in the video in the chat, if you've noticed any weird Techter interactions, let me know. We might just find some bug or some glitch that could be useful to us. And one more thought before we close. I find it ironic that once again, a jet boot related entity is exposing bugs in the game. So if it isn't Bouncer, it's an enemy wearing jet boots, and it's going to either cause a problem or expose a problem. So I find that a little funny, all things considered. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.